What if there is no start when you approach your life, a challenge? What if there is no start as a distinct point in time? What if the very act of approaching, the thing itself, is the start? You don't approach and then find the start. By simply giving attention, the start is already there. Consider the nature of such a start. A profound beginning that is always present, unconditionally, unlimitedly, no matter what. It's not consumed by time, not exhausted like a fire burning through wood until it dims. What is the nature of this infinite, timeless, endless, eternal start? To have that start as your life, not merely an experience in your life, not a tool you use, not knowledge about your life, but the very essence. This is what could be termed free creative flow. Free creative flow is just a label, 3 words pointing towards something real, something tangible in its own way. I want to bring forth something from within me that doesn't truly exist as knowledge, something that has no utility in the conventional sense. It doesn't belong to the world of concepts focused on benefit or purpose. This something is the very essence of joy in life. People often search for happiness by trying to fulfill certain conditions. Financial freedom, starting a family, business success. It doesn't matter what. They operate under the assumption that meeting these conditions will lead them to happiness, inner peace, sublime satisfaction, something beyond mere survival and superficial pleasures. They seek deep fulfillment. Yet the more they seek it through the fulfillment of conditions, the more that satisfaction becomes an illusion. A fiction devoid of substance. It becomes like a legend. Many hypnotize themselves into imagining it, which only pushes the real thing further away. One must ask oneself a question posed to me when I was 17. Does a happiness exist that has no conditions? A happiness that cannot contain disappointment? That cannot fail to manifest? A happiness that no condition can bring into being, and no condition can take away? Does something exist that stands beyond all conditions? A person must ask this question, because only this question can shake the solid foundation ingrained within us. The belief that happiness is the product of conditions. Even if someone looks beyond physical conditions, they often just define new ones, psychological, spiritual, or other novel types. But happiness without conditions, regardless of what you do or don't do, what happens to you or doesn't, who you meet or don't meet, regardless of anything, that happiness stands on its own, independent of everything. Until this question is truly posed, well, no one knows if it's real or not. But until it's posed, there is no beginning, no real start. This question itself is a question without end. Things can become clearer as you investigate for yourself, as you observe, doubt, open up. But as things clarify, they reveal further questions, new shades, different levels of resolution. This goes far beyond the intellectual dimension of knowledge. The very reality within this question can be revealed, can flicker, can be heard across infinite dimensions, for the question is like a calling to that happiness. And immediately a secondary question arises. Who is calling to this happiness? And what is a happiness that can be called upon? And what is the nature of that entire space of calling? If we remain within the realm of the question, is it a question with an answer? If it has an answer, who can provide it? And what is the nature of that answer? Is it verbal? Is it the manifestation of happiness itself? If it manifests, to whom does it manifest? And following, what does it manifest? If it stands entirely on its own, what relation does it have to us? All these threads are, naturally, a flow of creative power not attributable to the individual person, not to their will, not to the control and direction of their thought. This flow is, in fact, and this is a statement to be examined, but it is stated, the foundation of the human being. The essence of the human is a question. You are here to ask. Not just with words, not just as an exercise. You are the question. You are the unknown. And you, through the course of your life, observe and become aware of reality, of the reality of your own existence. And part of that reality is its nature as a question. It is, if you will, constructed from atoms of not knowing. Everything that is known actually distances you from this core reality. When a person begins to feel comfortable with their being, with their essence being a question, and feeling comfortable means encountering everything internal or external as a question, you could call this casting doubt. But it's a healthy doubt, not an exercise in intellectual sophistry. Let me give you an example. When you look at a tree, you don't know what you are looking at because you are looking at nature. Tree is a drawing, a label man assigned to categorize elements of nature and build an encyclopedia of knowledge. But when you look at a flower, you are looking at nature. When you look at the sky, you are looking at something that doesn't exist in the fixed sense. You are looking at infinity, at space. A space you cannot see with the eye, yet you are looking at it. This means that all these questions cannot be accumulated. Databases can't be built. AI cannot be tasked to answer them to reach a final conclusion. The variability of a person to transform from knowing to not knowing, and from not knowing to questioning, and from questioning to even deeper not knowing, and to observe even more deeply. The very embodiment within them of sensitivity, of extremely subtle capacities of discernment. Then, in the depth of the question as it clarifies, the answer also clarifies. But the answer to the question is not added knowledge. It is the question's own dissolution or disappearance. The moment you live the thing becomes more than tangible. It is real. It is real without you knowing what it is. It manifests. And if you are the question, and if you are infinite openness to not knowing, and if, in the depth of not knowing, you manifest, then the question itself is no longer. There's no need for it. The manifestation is the knowing itself. And to connect this whole conversation back to the beginning, not knowing as manifestation is the happiness that depends on nothing. And so, a person lives, a person like any other. They didn't study conventionally, stopped formal education in high school, didn't go to university, didn't read too many books, perhaps dabbled here and there. But at some stage an interest sparked within them concerning everything that could be called truth, the inquiry into truth. And into this they invested much thought. But the thinking only distanced them from the truth. Thinking created within them a backdrop of imagination, interwoven with stories, experiences, experiments, proofs, miracles, and wonders. Except imagination, like imagination, has no substance. The truth within imagination is that it is imagination. It's not real. It has no substance. As trivial as this sounds, very few people are capable of grasping, in depth and breadth, the profound meaning that there is no substance in imagination. And if you still struggle to understand why, thinking and imagination are precisely the same thing. They aren't two different things. They are just two words to which you've assigned slightly different meanings. But the process of thought and the process of imagination are an interweaving of symbols, signals, letters, upon a backdrop of memory. Memory that is more dynamic, less dynamic. It no longer matters. Seeing that there is no substance in all of this allows you to look beyond it. And the gaze beyond thought, beyond imagination, that is the inquiry into truth. The inquiry into truth is it is the most sincere movement of the heart. Thought wants to attach various strange desires to itself. But the heart, its concern is truth. Infinite purity. Absolute purity. We often speak of the heart and mean the world of emotions. There is absolutely no connection between the world of emotions and the heart. The world of emotions arises from the world of thought. The heart is the calling toward everything that is beyond thought, imagination, emotion, experience, phenomena. Beyond, not in the sense of more than, but beyond in the sense of no need for description. Now, anything you describe so you can explain it to yourself, explain it to someone else, overall, to know and to be freed from the burden, the yoke of a question. But when a person holds not knowing in their hands, metaphorically speaking, they have no desire to be freed from the yoke of the question. They burn in the question until it consumes them, and consumes the question itself. And what remains is that which cannot be consumed. Knowledge will always be consumed. Identity will always be consumed. Experience will always be consumed. Essence and being are eternally what they are. Without the ability to describe it. Without the ability to touch it. Without the ability to use it. It is the enabler of everything. It enables knowledge, it enables ignorance, it enables clarity and vision beyond the limitations of thought. And it enables thought itself. It is the It is the infinity of aliveness, both in its mundane aspect, inasmuch as a person desires trivialities, and certainly in its eternal dimension or aspect. Now the person who didn't study formally, whose heart opened to the inquiry into truth, who saw what they created within themselves as a world of imagination regarding the question of truth's inquiry, this person is free to gaze without knowing. To gaze at what? At a flower, or a person, or a house, or the sky, or a cloud, or themselves, or at nothing. Free to gaze. To gaze means to give one's heart to everything that exists as a question. They don't give their heart to things based on a world of values or preferences. They give their heart to things because all things, in their infinite forms and manifestations and being, are layers of that same fundamental question. What is truth? And this is no longer a question asked with a foolish expectation of an answer. The question itself is real. And it calls for its own non-necessity, for its own disappearance. But its disappearance comes from clarification, not from an artificial process that imagines its disappearance. And the whole concept of time, until when, how much, none of it exists because the question swallows this entire movement of the concept of time. And if by this point you are utterly confused, I will only say this. The embodiment of the question is the happiness that has no condition. And certainly it has no measure, no stopwatch, none of those things the mind is accustomed to using to measure, prefer, shorten, accelerate, decelerate. It doesn't exist. There is an awakening to being as a question. And to you, yourself, as being that question. Or at least, that question being the deepest connection to the essence of your eternal being, not your transient one. And the possibility is that your existence, your truth, which is actually your disappearance in the sense of knowledge and memory, begins to clarify. And in that lies its contribution. To you wherever you may be, I say. Not knowing is not a limitation. And not even an edge of living knowledge is denied from it. The end of dead knowledge, the knowledge that can be contained in memory and given a name, its end is the beginning of not knowing, which is living knowledge. Living knowledge is not held in your hands. Your hand is living knowledge. Living knowledge is not subject to your desires. Your desires are living knowledge. Or the challenge within them is living knowledge. Wherever you may be, I say to you, live the living knowledge that springs from absolute not knowing. Within it your happiness exists. And the non-necessity of any idea regarding manifestation. Live the living knowledge in every way and every manner. And without way and without manner. As it appears to you. For the one key is the wellspring of living happiness, the living knowledge. Your own wellspring, the wellspring of your heart. However you want to label it with words, they will always mislead. But the words hint that we are not talking about something that can be described. And it is good that way. Because the moment there is description, there is a lack of clarity regarding the interpretation of the description and so on. But the moment there is absolutely non-necessity for description, the thing itself meets itself. The existent exists. Reality neither distances nor approaches. Good luck.